And you know, grief is one of them things that'll hold you for 20 years. It'll sit you in anger. It'll sit you in guilt. It will sit you in depression. And you know, we'll keep the same face, right? But we'll be sitting held. And that's what we want to come through today. So that first stage of the grieving process is called denial. Denial is a funny thing. It looks different to everybody. The way you know you're in the stage of denial, you just need to know that denial is a natural high. Like you high when you're in denial. It's a funny thing. It's almost like when you're in denial, you could feel numb. You might be feeling everything, you know, but you surely aren't thinking about what you lost. Because what you're doing is you're overdoing something. Maybe you're working. Maybe you out there doing some things you ain't supposed to be doing. Maybe you go back to some things that kept your mind apart from what you really want to not think about, which is the loss. So it's important for us to understand that when we're in the stage of that first stage of denial, that the best picture I can give you is when someone gets into a car accident and they get hurt, there's a thing that happens in our body where we really start going numb. Does anybody know what that's called? You start going numb. They got to cover you up so they can keep you so you don't pass away. Yes. Numbness and shock. That's what it is. And if we understand it in our body that we're in that place, some people stay stuck for years in shock. And then you talking to them and you think they hate you, you think they distant, you think they don't care, but it's not that. It's that they're in shock. They're in that stage of denial. So sometimes we need to have grace for ourselves and for others when they're in that stage. So thank you. The second stage of the grieving process, because we can only stay high so long, is actually lower than the lowest. It's called anger. Now, not being funny, but do you know some angry people? No, they got the face, but really in their heart, they angry. And it's messed up too, because you know in the church, angry looks rude. It don't look angry. And anger really is just hurt. Like, it's hurt. So when we have that second stage of the grieving process where we're in the lowest of lows, and it's a real downer, that anger comes out and it's deep in your heart, but it only hits the people close to you. You can't be angry at nobody but who's in your reach. So they get the backlash of that grief, that second stage of the grieving process, which is anger. In that anger, you really want to make sure that you just acknowledge and let people know where you at. Yeah. I'm mad. Yeah. And guess what? Yeah. We can be angry. It's in the Bible. Don't sin in your anger. But anger is a part of us. And we just let it go. Give it all back to Jesus. The third stage of the grieving process is very important because where you went high in denial, you go even higher in bargaining and guilt. Bargaining. Oh, we know it well. If, coulda, and shoulda. If I would have just been there 5 minutes earlier, I promise you wouldn't have left. I would have been there. If I could have just been there, if I could have just did this, it wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have happened. My mother passed 4 minutes after I left out of the hospital room where I told her I was coming back for her. She left. But guess what God gave me at her burial site? Her best friend was there. She said, I was terrified to share this with you guys, but I'm going to share it anyway. She thought we was going to hate her. She shared that when we left out of my mom's hospital room, because I was going crazy with that 4 minutes, she said that my mother called her immediately and was excited. My daughter just left. She brought my son. I got to see him. I hadn't seen him in a while. She was feeling so good, and she's looking at her. She on FaceTime with her. And her best friend describes that while she's talking to her, she looks up over the phone, and her best friend's looking in her face, and she says, oh, wow, because my mom was very expressive. And she said, she called her name. She said, oh, she just wanted to show her what she was seeing. And the phone dropped. Now, best friend is confused because all she sees is the top of the hospital room ceiling. And she's looking and she says, what's going on? And then she hears, beep. And that was at least A good 10 seconds after she saw what entered the room, which we know to be the glory of God. Because the Lord said, there is no second death for them that are in him. There is only one death. So when the glory came in, death wasn't there yet. And I could not believe that this woman was telling me that she looked in my mother's face when the glory of God walked in that room to walk her out, because she loved the Lord. She loved him deep. She loved him deeper than she loved us, and she would sure tell you, I don't love nobody more than him, but I love y'all a lot. And we knew how much she loved us. Do anything for you. But I want to tell you that the young lady on the phone heard the nurses run in and say, she doesn't have a pulse, start CPR, and heard all that they were doing to that body that was left behind. But my mother had stepped up out of it already. She was no longer there. So that third stage of the grieving process, where the enemy thought he was going to keep me captivated with, what did I do? What did I say? I was there the whole day. What did I do wrong? Why did she die after I left? Did I give her a heart attack? Like, I didn't understand. But then at that service, the Lord quieted my heart. Sometimes we just got to get quiet in the Lord for him to bring us that right, for him to just talk to us. I want to speak to the person who's feeling guilty today. I want to tell you the lie of guilt. It's like a quilt. You ever had a good warm quilt to wrap up in? A guilt quilt ain't no joke. It'll keep you stuck for 20 plus years, I'm just saying. A guilt quilt where you feeling guilty for something that in anybody's right mind, they would know that you had nothing to do with it. You could not have did that. But no. When it's time for people to leave, God calls them home. Guilt only tricks you into believing you had something to do with the loss. You had nothing. Nothing. It was time for them to go. Their time was finished. We still out here striving. The very final, not the final stage, but the fourth, the fourth stage of the grieving process, which is lower than the anger. You know where that anger was inside of you and it was going out to the outside people? What about them days when that anger turns inside and you start fighting with yourself? And you start blaming yourself and it tells you to close the door, close the door, close the door. Why don't you close the door? Turn off the lights, turn off the windows. Don't answer the phone. Ooh, don't answer the door. No. Just get it dark in here. Just so you can stay in that dark place. So you can cry, so you can kick, so you can ball up. Whatever you doing in that place, you doing it and God sees you and he's with you. But I need you to know that when you're in a place of sadness and depression, that it's important for us to reach out to our pastors, to those we love, and let them know where we at. Just tell them, hey, I'm sad. Hey, I'm depressed. Guess what? This is all in the Word. We gonna get sad. He gave us beauty for ashes, you know. He has things he hands us when we give it to him. So we have to give it to him. It's okay. We're gonna walk through it. There is a way to walk through and not stick and stay in it. We gotta move through it. The Lord will walk us through because he has some things for us. We can't even get them till we get up out of this grief. But grief is here, and when it comes, it's okay. We gotta allow. So that depression, when you're there, you reach out, because I'm telling you, people have committed suicide and hurt people in the middle of that depression. It's a serious thing. That's the lowest of lows. But when we first started, we talked about how important it is for us to accept. Now, we didn't already accepted the Lord and our Savior, Jesus Christ. And if you haven't, let's accept him today. But I want to let you know that when you accept, when you get in this place where you lean in, close your eyes, and tell him, I'm ready. I'm ready for you to take it. I know I've been holding on to it, whatever reason it makes sense to you. You're not going to lose nothing by giving God something. You can only get more. So acceptance is letting go and allowing God to come in and allowing God to melt away the things that we've been carrying. That's all I got. I love you guys.